Hi, welcome to Tales Beyond the Grave. Welcome back to another video. Now we're here today. We're in centre of Manchester, and we're here for a reason. And I love coming to Manchester, and I love like the new buildings, but I also love the old buildings. But I also wonder what was here before the new buildings. And you think of it, used to be all streets and churches and places like that, Victorian times. So right underneath your feet, I'm going to take you to 3 mass burial grounds which you might not know of, which you probably walk over every day. So I'm going to take you to the first one, which is near the bottom of Deansgate, the second one up near the university, and then the third one over in the northern quarter. So let's go and have a look. So this is our first stop. This is St John Street in the centre of Manchester. Now, St John Street was once a very affluent area full of merchant bankers. Lots of influential people lived here. And then it had a bit of a nosedive. It went downwards with the influx of immigrants coming into Manchester for work. They turned most of them into lodging houses. And then from the 20s onwards, they started to become a more nicer area again. And a lot of them today are doctors, consultants, private offices. If you have a look around you, the houses are still the majestic houses really. If you look at they've got big Georgian doors on them, the 3-storey high, 4-storey some of them. They've still got the sash windows, and it's just a nice part of Manchester, which you probably miss. But like I say, if we look down to the bottom of St John Street, there's what's known as St John's Gardens. That was once St John's Church and graveyard around there. So we're going to take you there because that's the first mass burial site which is hidden from the public view. So this is now St John's Garden. Now this used to be formerly St John's Church and graveyard, and it was there from 1769 to 1931 before it was demolished. And this is the site really of where our first mass burial took place. When the church was demolished, we're still left with all the gravestones, and they were all buried here, and I'm going to tell you a bit about them now. So St John's Garden, after the church was demolished around 1932, it was developed into the gardens, what you can see today, and it contains a memorial to the church and those buried in the graveyard. Now, those what were buried here, over 22,000 bodies were buried here. They were buried under 18 inches of soil. So amongst the 22,000 souls what are buried here is the grave of John Owen. Now John Owen formed the John Owen College, and that was a forerunner first of the Manchester University as it is today. And his grave monument is still here in the garden. So we're going to take you over to have a look at this. But if you think of it, 22,000 people was buried here in only 18 inches of soil, and we used to call this, but it had a strange name when I was a kid. We used to come here, it was called Batman Park for some reason, but I never knew until not long ago that there was 22,000 people buried beneath our feet here in the centre of Manchester. So this is mass burial site number 1 in Manchester. Now on this memorial here, it tells you a bit about St John's Garden and also John Owen. It also tells you about William Marsden, who originated the Saturday half-day holiday, and he was buried in this churchyard as well. So your 5.5 day week, you can thank William Marsden for that. So we've come to site number 2 now. This is nothing to do with the Vimto bottle, because this is where Vimto was first created, but maybe that's for another story. But as you can see, the building behind us is Granby Row, and that was once the site of St Augustine's Catholic burial site, and also the church. It's now covered over, but this is site number 2. So, St Augustine's Catholic burial ground, Granby Row, and it was 1820 to 1909, and it's long been since demolished. And the land now forms part of the university campus, and situated on the left, as you can see, where the building is, and it was officially opened in 1820. Now the burial ground was only been open a few years when it became the focus of some unwanted criminal activity. Now in 1824, 2 men, William Harrison and William Johnson, went into the cemetery at night and stole a body from a freshly interred grave, and they were later arrested and imprisoned at Lancaster Castle. So in 1854, the burial ground was deemed too full and at a risk to human health and was closed. Now in the same year, excavations took place for the new schoolrooms to begin, and that's what you can see here today. This was the start of which would be now Manchester University. And while digging, the builders discovered that there was 18 layers of coffins packed on top of each other. With every spade put into the ground, it hit bodies. Now Manchester Corporation described the scene of the excavation as a sickening sight, with an horrendous smell and black matter coming from the excavation pits. And finally, the Church of St Augustine's remained in use until 1908, and a year later the church and the burial grounds were sold to Manchester Corporation. The corporation wanted the land to build the new Manchester Technical College. As we know it today, it is Manchester University Campus. So that's burial ground number 2. Now, buried here is over. It's said to be buried on this site just underneath where we are today, and mainly where the building is 13,000 bodies were buried on this site. So that is burial ground number 2, and it's Granby Row in Manchester. So what we're going to do now is take you over to the final burial ground. Now the burial ground we're going to take you to now is the most people buried there, and you probably walk through that like you've done this. You probably skip through the streets of here not knowing that Granby Row once was a burial ground here. Now we're going to take you over to the next one, which is over 40,000 people buried in that ground. So welcome to our third and final burial ground right here in the centre of Manchester, and this is one of the most harrowing tales around here, because this is a burial site to over 40,000 pauper graves, and it's now called Angel Meadow, and it was once a site of St Michael's Church. And I'm just going to show you some of the flags what still remain from when it was once a church. So it's located on the site of St Michael's Church, and it was once described as the ugliest church in Manchester. Now the church was demolished in 1935, but some gravestones still remain. The Angel Meadow lower section, what you can see now, on that site there, became the largest pauper burial in Manchester, and it's estimated over 40,000 people were buried beneath our feet today. And it was uncommon to see children playing football with skulls that had been disturbed during flooding. And the poor paupers were buried between 1788 and 1816 due to the living conditions at the time. Poor sanitation, overcrowding, disease. The ragged school still stands, but the factories, foundries, mills and the houses and the workhouses have either been demolished or turned into luxury apartments. Part of the remains of the old churchyard are still inside Angel Meadow, and you can see that was once the perimeter wall which went down to where the pauper graves lay, just down there. And the ragged school is still over there, amongst all these nice office blocks and apartment blocks, and that was part of the old Angel Meadow. The building you can see here is the Charter Street Ragged School, and I'll try and show you a picture of just along this church railing wall here, going down Charter Street, is a picture of poor kids with nothing on their feet waiting outside for food and shoes and clothing. It's a harrowing picture to see, but like I say, this building is still here. It still remains after all this time, amongst all these new apartment buildings and office blocks. And these were the steps where L.S. Lowry stood and painted St Michael's Church. It's featured in quite a few of his paintings. So hidden just round the back of St Michael's Church and Charter Street is St Michael's Place. It's an old little alleyway which used to exist. It doesn't anymore. It's just a street what goes nowhere. But it would have been a little cut through from behind the church. It's still remnants of where it used to be. I just wanted to reference it as St Michael's Place, just round the back. So we've come to the end of the video. This has been 3 mass burial sites in Manchester which you probably walked over and you didn't know about. So I'm going to say thanks everyone for watching Tales Beyond the Grave. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you like, and give us a share. And it just encourages us to go out there and film videos which I think you might be interested in. So we're going to go on to the next one. I'm not too sure when I'm going to go on the next one. I've got a list as long as my arm, and the best thing to say is I'll see you when I get there. Bye.